You have emerged as the main opponent, I think, of the Senate, the President's Economic Recovery Plan, at least the version that came up in the Senate. You offered another plan about half the size of this one. It was defeated on a straight party line vote. But I want to ask you, now that you have made your point, do you intend to support this plan? Because I think economists on all sides of this say something has got to be done here.
Well, I can't, Bob, and I can't because I think it's the greatest transfer of not only spending but authority and responsibility to government. I think it's massive. It's much larger than any measure that was taken during the Great Depression. I think it has policy changes in it which are fundamentally bad for America. For example, there are Buy America provisions. That's protectionism. It didn't work at any time in our history. But most of all, because I think this can only be described as generational theft. What we are doing is amassing multi-trillions of dollars. If you look at what is going to be announced Monday or Tuesday, a new TARP. We've already spent $700 billion. Another how many? Half a trillion?
This is aid to the banks.
Yes. Then we're going to have a supplemental to pay for the war. We're going to have what we call a continuing resolution, another $400 billion. We're going to have already $1.2 trillion deficit by the estimates, and it's just begun. We're going to amass the largest debt in the history of this country by any measurement, and we're going to ask our kids and grandkids to pay for it. So I thought we needed, I know we're in trouble. I know America needs a stimulus. We need tax cuts. We need to spend money on infrastructure and on other programs that will immediately put people to work. But this is not it. And one small example, and I'll stop. We had another vote and got 44 votes on a trigger that said that once we have GDP growth for 2 quarters, in other words, the economy recovers, that we will stop the spending and will put America on a path to a balanced budget. That was rejected. And why is that? Because they're putting into permanency massive spending programs and massive responsibilities taken over by the federal government from the private sector.
Let me just ask you this. You're against this. You don't like this approach, but do you think that it will help?
I think that it may help a bit. The Congressional Budget Office said that it will create by the end of next year between 1.3 and 3.9 million jobs. Now that's the Congressional Budget Office, a objective organization. That is, if it's 3.9 million jobs, that's $200 and some thousand per job, and if it creates 1.3 million jobs, then that's $600,000 per job. But more importantly, the Congressional Budget Office says that because of the crowding out, in other words, the debt we are going to have to pay off, you will see by later years an actual decrease in our economy. We don't want to do that to future generations of Americans.
Economists on all sides of this seem to be saying it is not so much the size or the composition of this stimulus package, that is less important than the timing. That even a flawed package would be better than nothing. Would you concede that's right?
There's some economists, many economists, Marty Feldstein, for example, said we need a stimulus, but not this stimulus. There's a large body of economists who agree, and I agree with them. We need a stimulus, and I thought it would be around 400. A group of us, all Republicans, thought it would be around $420 billion, and balanced tax cuts and spending. And by the way, this agreement is not bipartisan. I've been in bipartisan agreements, many. This is 3 Republican senators. Every Republican congressman voted against it in the House, plus 11 Democrats, and all but 3 Republicans stayed together on this. That's not bipartisanship. That's just picking off a couple of senators.
What has to happen to this bill? The Senate will pass it basically in the form it's in now. It'll go to this conference committee where House and Senate negotiators will reconcile it with what the House has passed. Really, when you go to the totals, we have a little graphic here and you look at it, It's not so different when it comes to money, as you can see in this graphic. But there are differences. They've taken out a lot of aid to the states. They've taken out a lot of money for school construction, for example. What do you think has to happen to get it passed and to get some Republican votes? Because the president keeps saying he thinks it's very important to have as many Republicans as he can get. So far, he hasn't gotten any. What should he do?
Well, I think from the beginning, when the Speaker of the House said, "We won, so we're writing the bill," that set the stage. It was put through both House and Senate without serious, fundamental, at the beginning, discussions and negotiations with Republicans. Democrat staffers, as we speak, started last night, and by the way, we just got the bill last night at 11 o'clock, 778 pages. They're negotiating now. They will come up with a bill, but unfortunately, Republicans will not be involved in those negotiations, and I regret that. And in interest of full disclosure, that's the way the Bush administration, when we Republicans were in charge, that's the way we did business. But I thought we were going to have change, and that change meant we worked together. This is a setback. This is a setback for all Americans, in my view, because we promised all of us that we would work in a more bipartisan, inclusive fashion, and that's certainly not been the case with this bill, and I regret that deeply.
All right. Well, Senator McCain, welcome back, and I hope we'll see you again through the year.
Thanks for having me.
In a minute, we'll get